Attention, armchair quarterbacks and shower thought GMs. It's time for this week's episode of SportsBall with Mike Maharrey and Alan Mosley.
So what do you remember from last week without really looking? I was trying to catch you in a trap. Do you like my
I was dancing.
Do you like my images?
I love the images.
I do too, especially the one on the left.
Yes.
Guys, welcome back to SportsBall for episode 64. I am your host, Alan Mosley, joined as always by Tampa Bay superfan Mike Maharrey. Mike, how are you doing?
Doing all right. How are you?
Yeah, I know.
That's about right.
Yeah.
It's a weird day. It's Tuesday. It's not really supposed to be SportsBall day, so I'll be confused the entire week.
You know, like the worst people in the world are the people on Twitter or other social media who, because the XFL is on now, they're saying stuff like, "I thought football was supposed to be over. We have to endure more of this." Those, they're the F word.
They're awful people.
They really are. They're awful people.
Who doesn't want more football?
Right?
If you don't want more football, there's something wrong with you.
Well, I mean, first of all, there's other sports on. And second of all, you could just not watch them at all.
That's
but,
true.
You know, whatever. Mike, what do you remember from last week without really looking?
Well, I specifically remember NASCAR, probably because it's so recent, as in yesterday, because, of course, the race got rained out on Sunday.
Yeah.
Pretty exciting finish. A lot of people say NASCAR is boring, and probably it's true for the first 150 laps. But the end of that race was actually pretty exciting, and if you didn't see it, maybe we can see it.
Yeah,
there was a horrible crash at the end of the race.
Yeah, check this out.
Now, this is Ryan Newman.
Yeah, so if you're faint of heart, shield your eyes. But if you're the opposite of that, pretend you're in this car.
The inside, they lock bumpers and turns Ryan Newman around. Upside down he goes. Corey LaJoie coming along, making contact.
Blaney tried the top side, tried to get low. Ryan Newman goes
like
around,
yeah.
and the car goes to its roof.
This is what hurts right
here's
here.
Here's the on-rushing Corey LaJoie picking it up and over.
Yeah, I saw that live, and my wife and I are both. That was a huge yikes, and I'm amazed that he's not dead.
Yeah, no kidding.
And as it turns out, he is in serious condition, but they say his injuries are non-life threatening. And so really the thing that I remember, the thing that impressed me about it is that kudos to NASCAR for making their sport safe.
Yeah. I
mean, as safe as you can make cars going 200 miles an hour stacked together in tight formation like that. I mean, and of course, in 2001, Dale Earnhardt did die at Indianapolis in a horrible accident. And that really was kind of the wake-up call. And they've done a fantastic job of putting all of the safety features into those cars so that you can survive something like that, which is really astounding when you think about it.
Yeah. You know what that reminds me of, don't you?
No.
Watch this, folks.
Watch this, folks. I love that.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, my goodness. Watch her ability to roll. When she hits the ground, nice roll.
Nice roll.
That's what they teach you in jiu-jitsu, Joe.
That's what they teach you in jiu-jitsu, Joel.
Every time I see that, I wonder what all that shit inside the Sooner scooter was.
I know.
What is all that?
I have a feeling that the Sooner Schooner does some partying before and after the game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, fortunately, Ryan Newman did not have to roll when his car was.
Yeah, no. Well, he had a nice roll, but he was in the vehicle.
You know what the saddest part of that thing for Ryan Newman was? He was winning that race up into that.
Yeah, point. I know. If it wasn't for how devastating the wreck was and his injuries, that would be the controversy today, right? Is that he was winning and he kind of got. Yeah, they got their a little bit tied up there, and that happens. That happens, and hardcore racing fans would say that's racing, and maybe more new age fans would say that's not racing. That's bumper cars. But
but the reason he was in the lead is he he had the guy on his bumper, and that was giving him the push.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was the whole point of it. But unfortunately, they just got a little bit squirrely and disconnected. And the poor guy that was pushing, they interviewed him after the race, and he was pretty broken up by it. Which who wouldn't be?
Yeah.
Really wasn't his fault. He was doing what he was supposed to be doing, and he actually said, the intent was, he said, I knew I couldn't get around, so I was going to try to push him to the win. But
yeah. Well, anyway, moving on to some more favorable news. Drew Brees, quarterback of the New Orleans Saints, has announced he is returning for his 20th season in the NFL. There's Drew right there making the big announcement. Mike, what do you think about the decision?
Well, I think it's good for football. Who doesn't want to watch Drew Brees? It's a shame that he's no good. He's never going to make it in NFL.
He's too short. That's what the problem is.
Too short, yeah. And then he hurt his shoulder, and he's never going to recover from that.
Yeah, exactly. Players never recover from their first injury. Everyone knows that.
The first thing that comes to my mind, so what does this mean for Teddy Bridgewater?
Yeah, the Saints definitely have some decisions to make. I'd actually heard some people before he made the announcement saying that, in some ways it would help the Saints in the long term if he did retire. Now that he hasn't, don't get me wrong. I genuinely think Drew Brees, assuming if he plays next year at the level he played the last year or two, if you're we have to win the Super Bowl today kind of guy, he gives you the best chance to win the Super Bowl right now.
Yeah, I think so too.
With that said, in when he was out with the thumb this year, Bridgewater was great.
Yeah.
Not only was,
and of course,
and Bridgewater was great, but the Saints organization has actually just flat out said that they really think everyday Superman Taysom Hill might actually be the future. So you have a glut of talent at QB, unlike some other football leagues that I know of.
And Hill's made it clear that he wants to be a starter. He wants to play quarterback. I mean, he's willing to play the utility knife, I think, for the time being. But he wants to, if he's not going to be the man at some point, I think he's going to start making noise to be traded. So. Yeah.
Well,
interesting.
I know. For moving on to a segment that, if you're a new fan of the show, we have a lot of fun little segments here on the show that we need to make graphics and stuff for them so people know what we're doing. Our old time listeners know.
Do we know what we're doing?
Well, I mean, we rehearse this every day before we go on.
Well, that's true.
There's
for the entire week before, actually, and it shows in how tight the show is.
Absolutely. So it's time for Cowardly Coaches Coaching Cowardly, where we talk about a signal caller who can't seem to find a sack, and it leads to his football team having a ne'er-do-well. This week, I'm going to combine a little cowardly coach with some announcers say. Now, nice. I hate to rag on the Tampa Bay Vipers because that's sort of already become the meme of the XFL fan base is everyone pile on the Tampa Bay Vipers. Which
we can't have anything nice in Tampa Bay. It's a thing.
I mean, on the one hand,
except for the Lightning, we have the Lightning.
Yeah,
thank God for the Lightning.
Well, I mean, thank God for the Lightning until the first round of the playoffs.
Until the playoffs.
Yeah,
exactly.
So anyway, Tampa Bay Vipers coach Mark Trestman, which, by the way, there's your first problem. Your coach is Mark Trestman. 12-19 left in the fourth quarter, Mike. They're down 14-9. This is a close game. He elects for a field goal from the Seattle 1-yard line. A field goal from the 1-yard line. Guess the football gods were so outraged by this. There's a high snap, and it has failed for no points.
You'll be shocked to know that this was about the point that I turned that game off.
I'm totally shocked. On third down, the running back dropped a catch in the end zone where the football had hit both hands. And this is where we get some announcers say. The announcer said, quote, "This is an impossible catch for a running back to jump and turn his back to the football." Now, what he was trying to say is it was one of those deals where he came off the line and he had to rotate his body back and catch the ball because it was a little bit thrown behind him and he had to and running backs play running back because they like to be handed the ball, not thrown it, right? But in professional football, and that's what the XFL is, if a football touches both of your hands, you're supposed to come down with it. Period. Yes. End of story. Keep in mind the ball's only thrown like 4 yards, so come on. I don't care. I mean, theoretically, if you were a halfway decent athlete, you could probably catch that one-handed contorting your body. The fact that this is the play that we're talking about today as like sort of being the turning point where then Seattle goes on to take control of the game, you got to make that play. You gotta make that play, but you also can't follow it up with a field goal attempt from the 1 yard line.
Exactly. Little side note on that game. I was impressed with the Seattle crowd. That was a crowd that actually, as Seattle crowds are known to do, make a difference in the game.
Yeah,
it was loud.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll actually get to that here in just a second. Who would you rather be, Mike? Would you rather be the St. Louis Blues or the St. Louis Battlehawks?
Well, you know who I would rather be.
Yeah, I know.
I would rather be the St. Louis Blues, obviously, because it's hockey.
Hockey.
I actually turned XFL off and watched hockey on I don't remember if it was Saturday or Sunday. One of those days. I think it was Saturday.
Cowardly fans changing channels.
Changing channels cowardly. Yes.
This is devastating news for Tampa Bay sports everywhere that the superfan changed the channel to hockey.
Right. So yeah, I would go with the Blues personally, but I have a feeling I'm being set up here.
Well, the Battlehawks, they played their first 2 games on the road, and so they're actually getting ready to host their first home game, their home openers this coming weekend. The St. Louis fan base is probably still stinging a little bit from the loss of the Rams to LA in the NFL. Sure. Listen to this. The Battlehawks have officially sold out their home opener this weekend.
Wow.
Furthermore, in the St. Louis area, the Battlehawks game this weekend was on TV at the same time as the defending Stanley Cup champs, St. Louis Blues. Mm-hmm. And the Battlehawks had nearly double the viewership ratings.
Ouch.
Ouch, indeed. I don't know what that says more about, if it says more about XFL ratings being good or the St. Louis market wanting football back, or if that says something about hockey viewership at this time. Maybe this time of year, hockey viewership isn't the best.
Well, I've said always that hockey is not a game that translates very well to television.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be a pretty hardcore hockey fan to really sit and watch a lot of hockey on TV.
Yeah.
It's not your casual sports fan that's going to sit down and watch an NHL game.
Mm-hmm.
I think your casual sports fan will watch a football game.
Yeah.
So I think that probably is a function of it. But
yeah.
Americans love football.
Americans do love football, and St. Louis apparently really loves football, which I mean,
so.
we covered that whole debacle back in the day of Rams to LA and how things have turned out since then. But yeah, I mean, it's great to see that St. Louis football fans have something to hold on to, and obviously they enjoy first sellouts. How about that?
Yeah. And the Battlehawks aren't a bad team.
No,
I think they have one of the better quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they do. Jordan Ta'amu from Ole Miss.
Ole Miss.
I actually saw some people saying, the quarterback play overall has been less than ideal in the XFL. Yeah. What they just need is some more SEC West QBs that aren't on NFL rosters. That's what they need.
Yeah.
I've got I could do that. Mike, I can definitely do this.
Okay.
So our I can do that is going to be addressing QB Matt McGloin of the New York Guardians.
Oh boy.
Now, people might remember that name. He played a few games in the NFL. I think he was with the Raiders for a time. He had a rough day at the office this past week, Mike.
Did he?
So not only did he finish 8 of 19 for 44 yards, 2 interceptions, and a QB rating of 10.1.
Oh, yikes.
But he was benched following a halftime interview where he criticized his team for poor play calling, among other things.
Oh boy!
I'm actually going to play this clip for you. It's going to be a couple of minutes, so everyone can feel the love that Matt McGloin has for the rest of his Guardians peers.
One of the things that I'm noticing evaluating the sideline with New York is there's a real frustration level with Matt McGloin right now. And there seems to be a disconnect between McGloin
walking
and the
away from your coach and spitting. That's good.
The direction and the philosophical approach they're taking versus this defense. Now, compounding problem is that right now they don't have an answer for blocking DC, and that's making things work. They're going to have to come up with some answers at halftime.
What does this team need to do on offense to get something going here?
We need to change the whole entire game plan at halftime.
What do you need to change about the game plan? What are you frustrated about?
There's just a lot going on right out now. It's embarrassing for us here as an offense, so a lot of things we want to fix and correct.
Thanks.
Wow. Change the entire offensive game plan.
Halftime's only 10 minutes, Maharrey. Do you think they changed the entire game plan?
Better go burn some chalk.
Here was G.A. Mangus, the offensive coordinator. What's creating the biggest issues from now on for us?
Well, we're struggling a little bit protecting some twists and things up front with new guys, and we kind of expected that. But we also had some opportunities to make plays, and we had a couple of overthrows. So you just got to settle him down a little bit and make some plays. Adjustment-wise, we got to get better in protection, and we'll try to him out here in the second half and see if we can't get some guys maybe down the field a little bit more.
Tempers have been heated up a little bit, especially with Matt McGloin. What was your message to him in the locker room?
Just keep your composure. We're only two plays away, and in this game it happens fast. So just calm down, stay poised, and believe in what we're doing. And he's good. Matt's a competitor. He gets fiery, but he lets it go. He's good at letting it go and moving on to the next play.
All right, thanks, Coach.
You got it.
Guys, I talked to head coach Kevin Gilbride about Matt McGloin's comments saying that the play calling is an issue. And I said, Coach, in all my years of covering football, I've never heard a quarterback say that. And he says, well, that makes two of us. I need to go talk to him and figure out what the problem is.
That makes two of us. So this is the beautiful thing about all the extra XFL coverage on the sidelines and with the coaches and players is that it's happening in real time and they're not communicating with each other. He said, she said. So the coaches are finding out literally in real time as they're kicking off the second half what Matt McGloin's been up to on the mic. So just to kill the suspense, Matt McGloin plays the first series of the third quarter, immediately throws a pick six and gets benched. So what do you think about that? If you're the coach of the New York Guardians, what do you think about your starting QB and his comments?
Oh, I would not be pleased if I was the coach. That's for sure. I mean, you can think it, don't say it, right?
Yeah. Well, the offensive coordinator there in the clip, he called him out a little bit for losing composure. He said that, we had a couple of overthrows, which is now to be fair, it is both true that McGloin was getting hammered nonstop because their line sucks. That is true.
Right.
DC defenders may have the best defense in the early point in the XFL. And two, this is, as Matt McGloin has gone on record as saying since that whole debacle, this is what the XFL wanted, right? They wanted the mic'd up. They wanted the sideline. They wanted the heat of the moment. They wanted the passion. And so some people have defended Matt by saying, well, look, this happened. Like, people get frustrated. They yell on the sidelines. They chew each other out. And then they get over it and they move on. This happens. You just don't see it and hear it. But in the XFL, you do sometimes see it and hear it. Mm-hmm. So you're willing to give McGloin a pass, or do you think he went too far?
I think he went too far. That's not, it's not something you say publicly.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. But I like it. I mean, for the entertainment value, let's have more of this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is that we're only in week 2, right? Like there's a lot more left to be played and the ratings seem to be good. It looks like the XFL might have some staying power, so we'll see. Yeah. Mike, I've got an LP team of the week.
Oh boy.
It's time for LP's team of the week. This week it's the Tampa Bay Vipers.
Oh.
I know. I feel like we're piling on them, and I feel bad because you're the Tampa Bay super fan. But I feel like part of enjoying Tampa Bay sports is gleaning the nuggets out of the misery, right? Like that's
right.
So the Tampa Bay Vipers, despite outgaining their opponents in yardage in each of their first 2 games, the Tampa Bay Vipers are 0-2 on the season. I've got good news and bad news, Maharrey.
Okay.
The good news is they've been on the road this whole time, and now they get to host their first home games of the season the next 2 weeks.
Yes.
The bad news is their next 2 opponents at home are league leaders Houston Roughnecks and DC Defenders.
Ooh, yikes.
But isn't that classic Tampa Bay, though?
I saw a tweet from a Tampa Bay fan lamenting the fact that he bought season tickets for the Vipers before they've even played their first home game.
Yeah, I wouldn't feel that way, though. I mean, at the end of the day, look, this is a new league, and a big part of its success is that it's football and there's no other football on, and you can go watch football. If it's a brand new league and you have very little to base your opinions on, and you have season, I'd go, sure. If I was down there, I'd go. I'd love it.
But I understand the frustration level of Tampa Bay fan. I mean, they just rode the Jameis Winston turnover train for an entire season,
Yeah.
So
I know
they're a little sensitive.
I know a lot of people use the DC Defenders as the perfect case example of a lot of XFL fans this early point in the season are people who just love football. Also, a lot of fans are people whose NFL teams suck. And you look at the Washington Redskins, easily one of or the worst franchise in football right now in the NFL. But the DC Defenders have been great. Fun to watch. They completed the first forward pass, by the way. 2-0,
nice.
Great defense, multiple turnovers per game. So a lot of people are thinking, well, if I'm a football fan in Washington, I can, the Homer Simpson meme of you've got the Redskins on your shirt and you meld into the bushes and you come back out as a DC Defenders fan. So like it worked out there for them. If you're a Washington area football fan, it's worked out. Tampa Bay has just sort of kind of been more of the same.
You know what did work out for Tampa Bay?
What?
The Tampa Bay Bandits back in USFL days.
Mm-hmm.
They were one of the better USFL teams, and they actually outdrew the Bucks at points. So,
yikes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I say yikes, but there are NFL franchises the other way around. There's XFL teams already this season who have had higher attendance numbers than some NFL teams I know.
Yeah.
Teams who moved to LA but have no LA support. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, among others. And of course, we already mentioned, of course, the Rams are in LA as well. Heck, they just went to a Super Bowl and they can barely fill the seats.
I know, right?
Whereas the Battlehawks are sold out. So how about that?
Yeah, how about that?
How about that indeed? Mike, shoot a puck to the head.
Well, for my puck to the head for this week, we're going to head over to Major League Baseball. We're going to shoot a little puck at Rob Manfred, who is the Major League Baseball commissioner. This whole cheating thing with the Astros has been a complete cluster, just absolute debacle.
Sure.
Players are angry, rightfully so. And I think most people feel like the Astros have not been punished to the degree that they should have been. You kind of understand why the players aren't being individually punished. There's two problems with that. Number one, you've got players that are on other teams now, so you'd be punishing the other team. And then, of course, he had to give them exemption from prosecution, so to speak, in order to get the information about what was going on. Okay, I give you that. But
sure.
When he said that, I think one thing that they could have done, that they should have done, is strip the Astros of that 2017 championship title. Put the asterisk on it, take it away from them, take the trophy. But Manfred said that idea, no good. He said the idea of an asterisk or asking for a piece of metal back seems like a futile act.
Yeah.
I don't know that Major League Baseball players view the trophy as a, quote, piece of metal. Just the whole optics of this whole thing have been horrible. Manfred in particular, the Astro players who have shown virtually no contrition, those poor guys, they're going to get thrown out a lot this year. Then you've got Dusty Baker, who's the manager for the Astros, the new manager. He's already begging the Major League Baseball to make sure his players are protected because he's worried about him getting thrown out. Just a complete cluster, not handled well by the commissioner. And so he gets a buck to the head.
Yeah, I mean, that whole situation has definitely been more than a little yikes. I will say this, though, because this is something that you've heard sometimes in college sports. There have been college teams that have been caught in scandals, and then they do have to vacate wins, vacate titles. Right. And the pushback to that, now don't get me wrong, cheaters are cheaters, and there should be some type of punishment, right?
Right.
On the other hand, it seems more appropriate to punish people you can prove actively involved themselves in cheating and not punish teams, because there's bound to have been players and personnel who weren't actively participating in cheating. And when you vacate wins and titles, you're punishing them. And
right.
So the college thing always was like, look, if Patino did something wrong and you vacate Louisville's wins or title, then you're just hurting the kids on the team who worked hard, won the games, and are being told after the fact, yeah, but that doesn't count anymore because your coach did a dirty thing.
Right.
That seems overboard to me.
I think that's legit. But on the other hand, I would say in this case, all the players knew what was going on.
I mean, well, so if they're all cheaters, then
you mean, you could at least make the case that Charlie Morton, who's the pitcher for the Tampa Bay Rays, they interviewed him, and he said, "Yeah, I knew what was going on." And he showed some contrition and said, "I wish I had done more to try to stop it. Maybe said something."
Yeah.
So there is culpability when you know that there's cheating going on, and of course, then there's the whole: do you, as a teammate, do you rat on your teammates? That's a discussion for another day, I guess. But I don't know. The whole thing is a mess. Baseball is a brush fire right now, and I think baseball's got a lot of problems beyond this. The game is slow, but you're in danger of getting people to feel like the integrity of the game is compromised. And when that happens, then basically you end up with wrestling. And I think the NFL is in danger of doing that with the officiating.
Sure.
So.
I mean, there's definitely plenty of that to go around. I mean, baseball's in a particularly bad position because this is not new to baseball, right? Like,
it's a boomer sport.
I would argue that the boomer sport of baseball, I mean, it's been a long time since baseball was America's favorite pastime. And that largely rests, I mean, yes, football has become huge, but it also rests largely on I would argue that baseball has been compromised in its legitimacy for long time.
Well, yeah, of course you've got the whole steroid thing.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a mess.
I mean, when your sport is notorious for having like a whole team in on a gambling rink to throw a World Series. I mean, I know that was a long time ago, but the fact that happened at all, it could happen. I mean, you're always going to have, whenever something else happens, people are always say, right. Oh, here you go. That's typical baseball. If that's typical baseball, then yeah, how are you going to get new fans? Like everyone knows the boomer who can cite all the stats from 1967. Where are the young fans though, Mike?
Right, exactly.
Yikes. Really quick before we get solemn, I forgot our adventures. I have an adventures in officiating.
Oh, adventures in officiating.
Perfect. I love it. So this is our first XFL adventures in officiating. So, of course, this means the XFL is done. It's over. The refs suck, Maharrey. We'll never watch another XFL game. I want you to look at this play right here. So this snap, you can see a Houston Roughneck player with his arm out and foot and arm outstretched past the line of scrimmage as the Battlehawks are about to snap the ball. So I know that's a terrible image, but people who watch the game know this play. On this play, St. Louis ends up throwing a pick that ultimately seals the game. Now, in the Roughnecks' defense, or just in defense of the officiating in general, St. Louis, it was a 28-24 Houston win. It was a great game. It was a really fun game. At the end of the day, if it's 28-24 and you're the team who is -2 in turnover margin, you have yourself more to blame than anyone. St. Louis had a lot of long drives that wound up with no points. And in a game that ended up being 4 points, especially in the XFL, by the way, where you can score anywhere between 3 and 9, depending on how you score the points. A 4-point game is a really close game with the clock stoppages in the 2 minutes. If you're -2 in the turnovers, you have yourself to blame. With that said, Battlehawks believe that this was a free down, right? The guy's offsides. We have a free play. I'm just going to launch it. Oh, it's picked. Who cares? It's 5 yards. The referees miss this. They do not call that offsides. It is unequivocally offsides. I mean, there's really not much to defend the officials here. You're supposed to have a line judge whose only job is to look at the line of scrimmage, and he blew this one. So, so strike one to the XFL officials. Of course, 3 strikes means you're out, so they only have 2 more. I think the NFL is up to strike like 9,826. But they got the money, so hey, what can you do?
There you go.
With that said, it's time for us to get on our solemn faces. You got your prayers going up right there.
Yes.
It's time for In Memoriam, where we name a player, a team, a coach, whoever, whose sporting life was cut tragically short. Mike, who are you remembering this week?
Well, this week I'm remembering San Jose Sharks defenseman Erik Karlsson, who's going to miss the rest of the season.
Ouch.
Broken thumb on his left hand.
Ooh.
And I can't imagine how badly his thumb must be broken because he has to have surgery on it. That's a bad break.
I thought hockey players
Anyway,
played...
Karlsson... This is bad news for the Sharks too, because Carlson, he only had 6 goals, but he led the team with 34 assists and 40 points.
Yeah.
He's kind of the anchor on their back end, and recently signed an 8-year, $92 million extension.
Oof.
That could be I could do that because I could not play for $92 million.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, I'm just kind of taken aback that how screwed up his thumb must be for a hockey player to not play hockey because his thumb is broken.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, don't these guys play with like broken arms and legs?
Yeah, they do.
I don't know. I'm just saying. I mean, I guess if you're worth $92 million, you play it safe. I don't know.
Yeah, interesting.
This week, I'm remembering the dream of Tim Tebow to the XFL is dead, Mike Maharrey.
Oh, man.
So,
as a Gator fan, this makes me sad.
Tim Tebow, a lot of people have complained. There's not a lot of complaints for the XFL at this point, to be honest with you. One of the few complaints is that quarterback play league-wide has been a bit yikes. Play overall has been pretty professional. Quarterback play has been a little bit suspect. You feel like they need to figure out a way to lure some bigger name QBs with a little bit more professional experience. Not that they're going to get a legit NFL starter, but maybe some backups who really want to see the field, CFL guys, college guys, whatever. Tim Tebow, who I mean, the dude won a playoff game in the NFL. You have to remember. Right. So it's not like he's a complete bum or anything. He decided that he thinks his future, his outlook is brighter trying to make it in the MLB and get to a team than it is to be back on the football field. So he has turned down the XFL. Do you think that's a good decision or a bad decision?
I don't know.
Riveting commentary by
that's why I get paid the big bucks for my SportsBall insight. I honestly don't know. I mean, there were some points that it looked like that he might be a legitimate baseball player.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I don't think that he has a future in baseball. I think if he did, he would have made more progress by now. So as someone who believes he doesn't have a future in baseball, and as someone who knows that he would have an enormous fan base overnight any team he played for. If they do expansion teams next year and they announce that one of the team starters is Tim Tebow, that team instantly rockets to the front of the line. You know that. Right. I know that. But he said no, so I guess we'll just have to move on to Manziel and Kaepernick. I almost said that with a straight face. What do you think about making picks this week?
Why not?
Why not? Let's make picks this week. So we're going to look ahead to week 3 of the XFL. We're gonna start with your boys, Houston Roughnecks at Tampa Bay Vipers. Is this the week the Vipers put it all together?
No.
Fair enough. Then we're moving on to Dallas Renegades at Seattle Dragons. Are the Renegades actually a good team now with Landry?
They certainly looked better, but
they certainly looked better. But the Dragons just came off a huge win over the fiery hot Tampa Bay Vipers. So who knows? Then you've got the New York Matt McGloins versus the St. Louis Battlehawks. What do you think there?
Well, I would go with New York if they change the offense completely, but since that's not likely to happen, I'm going to go Battlehawks here. I think Battlehawks are one of the better teams. Like I said, I think they have one of the better quarterbacks. So.
I don't think the Guardians are as bad as this past weekend showed, but the Battlehawks are a good team that was a play away from winning this past weekend. They're playing at home in front of a sold-out crowd, so I think the Battlehawks win. Finally, DC Defenders at LA Wildcats. I think it's easy to pick the DC Defenders. I just want to mention really quick, the LA Wildcats are also an 0-2 team, but they don't get anywhere near the hate. They don't get anywhere near the hate of the Vipers. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think Tampa Bay is an easy target.
I think it is too. I mean, the Wildcats have shown a little life. It's not like they've just been total bum. With that said, the Vipers have outgained both of their opponents. I don't know. That's what you get when you have a sample size of 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and people, you have to remember. I mean, there was no preseason.
No.
There was no real there wasn't a long training camp. So right. I think the makeup of. Not the makeup literally, but the makeup in terms of how these teams mesh together. I think you'll see a lot of change over the next 3 or 4 weeks as they gel and learn each other. And figure out what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, on that note, guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Sports Ball. We're a proud product of some other network now. I think it's called Funny Broke or something. I don't know.
Something.
But you can still find us on Facebook, where we stream our episodes live on whatever day we feel like, apparently. But you know what? We're going to have some fun announcements to all that fact in the very, very near future. So stay tuned. But you can still find us on your favorite podcasting platform of choice.
You can.
iTunes, right. Stitcher, Google Play, all that good stuff. As well as, do you have a final thought?
The Tampa Bay Lightning just set a team record for consecutive wins.
Huh.
Yeah, 11 consecutive wins.
I can't wait to see how this turns out.
Which is surprising because, they had two streaks last year of 10 consecutive wins, but 11, that's the record. And they've scored points in like 20 or 21 games.
Interesting.
So
I'll tell you my final thought. Did you know that the XFL is actually going to be starting Thursday night football? So they're going to be starting their own Thursday night football in weeks 9 and 10. There will be Thursday night football.
How about that?
Yeah, no, how about that?
That makes me happy.
I know, right? Like, I can't believe people who aren't willing to at least give it a chance. I'm enjoying it, so screw you guys. Yeah. I guess is basically our that's the thought we're leaving you with this week. Screw you guys.
Screw you guys.
Yeah. Guys,
and thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.
Love me.
You have been listening to Sports Ball with Mike Maharrey and Alan Mosley. You can follow us on Facebook and leave comments, suggestions. Just go to @SportsBall Podcast. That's @SportsBall Podcast on Facebook. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you again next time.